But let's look to the final because we do have Sabalenka against Pegula. They have played 7 times before, Chris. The
Hmm.
head-to-head is 5-2 in favour of Sabalenka. And their most recent showing was, of course, that Cincinnati final just a couple of weeks ago, which was straight sets to Sabalenka, 6-3,
Mm.
7-5. So based on their previous matches, I mean, where are you thinking for the final? Do you think that extra kind of experience and the better head-to-head is going to favour Sabalenka?
I always hope that you'll go first when we get to what do we think will happen? Because now I'm thinking, how do I say? I can say two things at once, maybe. I think the first set is going to be so important. Um, Pagula is particularly good when she gets that first set. Obviously, she did come back from behind against Muchova, and I think having that sort of result or not having the form in what is the biggest match of your career at this point for Pagula and turning it around, that's a lot of confidence you can take from that. So whatever the scoreline is, if Sabalenka is up, 6-1, 3-love, Pagula will still think I've got a shot in this. And that belief, I think, will be really important in the final. Having said that, Pegula could also be playing with a renewed sense of freedom. She could come out, and I think you do almost scrap the form book at this point because it's such a different environment, and you're almost starting with a clean slate. It's a three-set shootout to win the biggest title, well, in front of the biggest crowd in tennis. So if it goes to three, I think Pegula is rock solid in some of those really tight moments. But again, that first set, it could also be Sabalenka in two. So this is one of the most even. I mean, last year's final was pretty even on the balance of the form book. And I feel like we're
Mm.
having a very similar situation here. It could be Sabalenka in two if she plays her top level. If she doesn't, it could slip away from her.
Yeah, I think it depends what sort of Sabalenka turns up and
Yes.
how she's impacted by the crowd
And the
being against
margaritas.
her. The margaritas, yeah. So I think it kind of it rests on Sabalenka's racket for me.
Mm.
Although, looking at the head to head, a lot of the wins that Sabalenka's had have come, when Pegula's probably not the player that she is currently now in the form that she's in. So how much we rely on that head to head, I'm not sure. But I guess based on their recent meeting in Cincinnati, I think going from that, I would give Sabalenka the edge. I mean, she
Mm.
was my pick at the start of the tournament to
Oh,
win.
Kim.
I thought like, who did you go for,
I think I
Chris? I
went
can't
for her
remember.
making the final and then losing to
Right.
Eager, I think. But I mean,
Oh,
that went
eager.
out the
Okay.
completely out the window. Um, but I mean, Sabalenka, as you say, she's done it before. She really did play so well in the AO final. That was really impressive. And you have to think that mentally, you'd hope that she thinks she has the edge, because this is definitely, and the way she's talking about it, as though this is the one that she wants to make sure that she gets after last year's. But we've seen that with Onstrabo. You can't expect that you're going to win it. You really can't. You have to go in there with believing that you can, but not expecting that you will, because I think no one's going to hand it to you. And Jessie Pegula fights for every single point, and she does love the pace. You look at some of their results that have happened, WTA finals, tricky conditions last year. Pegula got the win in straight sets. Previously, at the WTA finals, it was a win for Sabalenka. So it is a case that if it was on clay, you definitely would go with Sabalenka. But hard court and in an American audience situation, it might level it a little bit, Kim.
Yeah, I think for me as well, though, a big factor is that first final kind of nerves,
Sets
which you
the
get from a
tone.
lot of players, and not everyone. Some people go into their first slam final and they're fine, but I think more often than not, it's nervy, it's edgy. Your first slam final, especially at home, how is Pagula going to manage those nerves? Because they're going to be there. But I think if she goes into it just thinking, well, look, I could have been down and out in those semi-finals.
Yeah.
It's kind of a miracle that I came through that. So let's just go for it because I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah. I can see
Whereas
that.
Sabalenka, the pressure's probably more on her, with being the more experienced player at this stage of a
Yeah.
slam. So yeah, it's going to be a very intriguing final. I think it's a
Ooh.
great matchup. I think we've got a good final ahead of us.
What
I'm
would we
going to stick.
predict though, Kim? Sets. Come on. I'm making you go first this time.
Oh, I'm going to say Sabalenka in two, but I think it might be a similar scoreline to the Navarro match, maybe like a tie break, 6-3,
Yeah.
6-4.
I am just a
Yeah.
believer today. I don't know why. Pagula, the story of coming back from behind. I think it's going to be three sets Pagula. And I'm not
Okay.
just saying that to be different, Kim, so that one of us is right, hopefully.
We're not just hedging our bets between
Yeah.
us, like
Yeah.
going for the
When there's
two
three
most
of
likely
us, we
scenarios.
all get exposed, I think. But two, we can say
Yeah.
one either way.
Well, listeners, let us know who you think's going to win. Let us know on social media. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And we do hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all of the action from the final weekend of Flushing Meadows. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Plus, like and subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that notification bell.
You can also follow us on social media or you can email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. We have a sale at the moment on our merch store. It's 25% off if you go to etsy.com/shop/Tennis Weekly Podcast. You can always email us, tell us what you think about our predictions, tell us who's going to win. And that's tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. Or do check out our wonderful website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back on Monday evening at Tennis Weekly HQ for our finals catch up of the US Open, brought to you by Fungible. So I hope you can join us all for that. If you can't wait until then, we will be posting videos to our YouTube before the full podcast comes out. So do check us out on there if you want to get ahead of the game. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.